This week's episode's a little bit unique, a little bit different. It's the first time that we are having our third business partner, Derek Ciocca, on the podcast. As you can see, his beautiful face as big as possible here on the TV for those of you that are tuning into YouTube. And then obviously, as always, the creative genius, Chris Callan. He's the man responsible for all things creative with all the brands that we're associated with. So pleasure to have you guys. This is going to be a fun one. Derek, welcome to the first episode with you.
Thank you. You know how much I love to be on the big screen, David.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Derek's one of those guys that's more of the behind the scenes person. And, he just kind of operates, lives his life that way. And that's what makes you special, man. So we just appreciate you jumping on as, you bring obviously an insane amount of value to the Digital Blueprint marketing agency, to David Allen Clothing, and to all the other businesses that are associated with us. So we appreciate you, man. Thanks for stepping outside of the comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. I like to move in silence, behind the scenes, like you said. But hey, the world we live in now, content and being front-facing on a lot of stuff is important. So I get it. And I'm comfortable on camera and talking and doing podcasts or interviews or anything like that. It's not me. It's never been me. But, so I think if this works well with the Zoom, like we're doing right now, we'll jump on every week and we can have all three of us. And, when all three of us get together, that's what created this company and these other brands. So we have a lot of good stuff to say usually.
Awesome. No, for sure, dude. And it's with everything we have going on and a big thing of having you on is there are also other business owners that are very similar to you from a mindset standpoint, that are more behind the scenes, more reserved, and more just prefer to be focused on executing work and being out of the limelight. So I think that's what's great about the three of us, and I really do believe we have a trifecta, is the fact that all three of us are so different in every way that we operate, in every aspect of business life. I know, I'll talk to Chris there at times about things. I'll talk to you certain times, and, we all have such a different perspective. So there are a ton of other people that are out there that I think are going to learn a lot from you. A big part of the success is because of the third that you've brought to this equation and much more. So,
something that you said there was that like business owners that like to operate, they don't want to be front facing. They don't want to be at all. And like totally get that. And if that's not your thing, like every business owner, probably if they don't want to be and they're not good at it and not comfortable at it, it's probably not the best thing for them to do. But what I would recommend is you got to find somebody who can be the front facing voice of your company. I think maybe not every company, there's unique situations that maybe you don't need to, but having somebody that's out there on something like this, a podcast or whatever it is, I think it needs to be found for your brand or your company in a lot of places, because customers want to, that's the world we live in. People want to connect via all these different, digital formats. And if you don't have a voice or something like that, then I think, you might get left behind in certain instances.
Well, and there was one thing, and I think Chris and I talked before about this, and maybe you and I have as well, but there's one thing that I talk to different people in every organization, and, I don't know who told it to me, but they always said, not every company needs a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or an A, B, C, whatever it is, meaning that everybody's roles are just so different. And I wouldn't categorize as at 1, 2, 3 or ABC. It's just, everybody's position is just far different than everybody else's. And I fit into a certain lane that I'm in. You fit into a certain lane that you're in. Chris fits into a certain lane that he's in. And I think that's super important for businesses, just truly understanding where you fit in and what your skill set really stands for, to make sure you utilize the most of your time, skill set, and all those things.
And more importantly than understanding the roles, it's how do those roles gel and fit. That's one thing that, as companies get bigger, they tend to find issues with how does Department A communicate with Department B, and how do they create whatever product or marketing campaign you're doing. How does that come to fruition when you have 30 people involved? So to be able to set those grassroots when you're a small business allows you for growth when you get larger to know how to connect all those dots.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to do it with like for great example is Gary Vee. Like obviously he's in the role that he's meant to be, and he loves doing that. Like every business doesn't need a Gary Vee type of person. You can do it in different formats, like huge, giant companies like Pepsi or Gatorade. They have celebrity spokespeople that they go out and buy them, for a year or two of commercials. That's their voice, right? So like voice is very, it's a very fluid way to say how you're going to get your message across to the customer. It doesn't have to be like a Gary Vee type of person. Obviously, smaller businesses can't, afford like a Snoop Dogg or somebody to be on their commercial, or one that we were just talking about the other day, Ice-T being on those bar commercials. Like everybody can't afford that, obviously, but with Instagram, TikTok, and influencers, I mean, you can have a program of voices through avenues like that. And so, we talk about having that message out there. It could be in different formats like that. And I think having whatever format that is, like Chris saying, you understand the rules, but understand how that gels for you or works for your company. That's really what that means. Because it doesn't have to be the same for you, but the general concept of having that voice out there is very important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and I know you both have talked to clients of ours in certain situations and really kind of said, hey, I think you were better served to build your brand as the front runner and face and be more forward facing on certain things. And a couple of clients of ours have started switching over to do those. Becomes more of a personality, becomes more of a brand, and becomes more of a layer to that business, right? And Chris, you always talk about the pillars in business, right? And I think a lot of the times those front-facing individuals become a pillar that's in there about who their character is, what they stand for, and it's kind of like one of those hidden pillars, or however you want to kind of, label that or decipher that.
Yeah, I mean, a product is a product, and, could be good, could be bad. But if there's an extra layer of something somebody likes or finds value in with a company, such as a personality or something that they feel some connection to, the product becomes secondary. So that's a pretty common trend in any kind of industry. But really, it's just another layer of offense and defense for a company to let your personality lead you and protect you. Because sometimes if certain companies fall under fire for something, if they have a well-established brand personality or actual forward-facing person that people trust, you can weather those storms better versus then having no personality and then shit hitting the fan.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times when, as a business is growing, there's so much that happens behind the scenes of a business that, every year you're trying to grow, you're trying to bring up the revenue number, you're trying to increase the marketing, you're trying to increase the awareness, you're trying to increase all those things. But also in the beginning of a business, you're spending a lot more money because you have to get out there. So by creating another stream of opportunity to be seen or visible, it allows the consumer to be attached more to that brand because they have that personal touch and that personal relationship, with a company or a product. So, and I think about the pandemic, obviously, is the most recent massive situation that a lot of businesses have unfortunately failed or struggled to get through. But I think the ones that have really had an opportunity to make it wasn't just a business. There was something more powerful, something more tangible. And I think a lot of that stems from the brand that's created.
Yeah, if you guys all watched the Super Bowl last night, which I'm sure you did, the one spot that stood out to me as far as like they get the gold star for the day was the Budweiser "It's Not About the Beer" commercial. Most of the other commercials up until that point, I had within 2 seconds, it was like, okay, I see what they're doing, cute, or stupid, not funny, or okay, there's a chuckle. But the Budweiser one was the first one where from front to back, it was like just spot on perfection. But the reason it was so perfect is that they were always known for humor in their spots. And with this one, they came out saying unification, it's been a shit year, but the gesture of just offering a beer to somebody is more than just the beer. It's the extended hand. So really that brand is extending their hand to make people feel nice for 30 seconds. And it just happens to be a beer that's the product. So that one really jumped out to me as like they're doing it right now.
Yeah,
The human element, right?
Derek, what did you think? My favorite that was I don't know if that was my favorite one. I definitely liked it. I was actually very happy with the Super Bowl commercials this year. And I think from when you really break it down from a marketing perspective, and you really know what goes into marketing and creating those types of ads and the purpose of what the follow-up is and, trying to get the awareness and all that stuff. I actually was very impressed with a lot of the commercials. So I don't know, did you have any favorites, Derek, or what was your overall thought interpretation of everything?
So two things on the, commercials that ran during the Super Bowl. The one I think that I liked was, I think it was Paramount. They're having like their own streaming service coming out. And so they put all these characters together that everybody, knows about from different shows, even nostalgic stuff like Beavis and Butthead, which was one of my favorite ones. And they had like all the characters from all these different shows. I don't know. They were like hiking on like the mountains or something.
Onto a Paramount mountain. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Cause it's Paramount. Right. So, and then it had like Beavis and Butthead and all these other characters, and it was how they interacted. So it was like all your favorite, characters, TV shows, streaming all in one place. And it like was a good, entertaining and memorable way to get the point across with humor. And also, the goal with humor is, yes, it needs to be funny and entertaining so that people like want to absorb the content, but it has, some sort of message about the product or the service in it at the same time. So, and it was like it was like a mini series throughout the entire Super Bowl, right? I think they ran they probably ran at least 3 to 5 spots on it, and each one was different. So it was like you got a mini, it's called I would call it the mini series kind of approach of a commercial where each one is like a little part of a series, and they extended that throughout the whole Super Bowl, and you're almost waiting for the next one. So I really like that one and the approach in it. And then just another one that I like the commercial. I've seen it before. I was just surprised that that this brand was on this level is because we talked about it. We were texting each other. Dr. Squatch, the soap for men, right? Super Bowl spots this year. The 30-second time slot was $5.5 million.
That's insane.
I don't know how long the Dr. Squatch commercial was. It wasn't 30 seconds. It might have been 15. But, even if that's half the cost, that's an insane commercial buy for – they're literally a direct-to-consumer soap brand for men. That's it. And right. I know they're doing well just because of how much content you see from them, but that was shocking to me that they were on a Super Bowl ad. And it just shows you and we talked about this, amongst ourselves during the Super Bowl when we were texting each other, the power of well done, memorable content that hits home with the consumer. And that, it's, if anyone hasn't seen it, go YouTube Dr. Squatch, soap bars commercials, you'll see it. They have like a Sasquatch type character, and it's like, soap for men has normally all these things that it shouldn't be, and it has all these chemicals and stuff in it, and then the Sasquatch appears, and they do it in a way that is entertaining. It's funny. It's a little raunchy, right? Which is dudes that buy soap. It's perfect for that customer, but it also gives you information about the product. That's like, oh wow, this actually makes sense of why this soap might be better than the soap I'm buying. You think about soap for guys, it's so simple. What would you even do with it? I think it was like a big eye opener for how direct to consumer brands are able to grow using really well done content and getting that content out on many different platforms over time, to the point where these people are running Super Bowl commercials now. So from start, because I remember them when they started. I actually talked to the guys from there because we were going to do a compilation thing back in, this was probably like 2017. So where they were then to 2021 running a Super Bowl commercial that runs at 5.5 million a spot. That was just, it really like drove home to me the point that well done content, you got to back it up with a good product. Like eventually you can only do so much bullshit marketing. And if your product or service isn't good, you won't grow as a brand in the lifeline. But if you have great content that matches a great service and product, you can go from a direct-to-consumer brand for men's soap. If you told me this men's soap brand is going to run Super Bowl commercials in 3 years, I'd have said, no way, no chance. They might do okay direct-to-consumer, but they're not running Super Bowl commercials. That's insane. So that was like really it was impressive, number one, but very eye-opening to how important well-done content is for the world that we live in right now. Super important.
So you guys always preach to different clients of ours whenever we're talking with them is, right, hey, we want a video proposal when they're putting together a project, whatever it may be, right? And whatever ranging, whether that's, depending on the severity of the project, how much is going to be involved, a couple thousand to tens of thousands, whatever the number may be, right? And you guys always say the way that we do things and the way we recommend is you're shooting a lot of content in a short amount of time and breaking that out into multiple pieces of content throughout. So as I'm hearing you kind of talk about the Sasquatch commercial, and I'm thinking, okay, they may have spent 2.5 million, 3 million, whatever it is for the half of the 30 seconds to the 15-second spot. Well, so I'm sure now with that big of an audience, that big of an awareness, so many people have seen that. So now as you'll start seeing, I would assume in the days to follow, that video or those variations of that video really being blasted out into the general public because it's such a familiar brand and familiar product because, oh shit, I just saw that during the Super Bowl. So it instantly relates to it. But now you have content that could potentially be used for the remainder of 2021.
Mm-hmm. For a long time. I guarantee that, they did a few things with that. Okay. I've seen those commercials before. They have many other versions of them. So they may have done because this is, again, they've had these commercials for 3 or 4 years. They refresh them once a year at least, maybe more now that they're growing apparently at the rate at which you could buy a Super Bowl ad. But they refresh the content along the same storyline, but they just continue to make that storyline, grow. And at some point it might, die off and then they'll realize that they need to make new content around it, but it's working right now. So like you said, they shoot that all in, maybe a day or 2 days, and they capture enough content that they can cut it up into these little pieces that all, live out there on the internet in, a bunch of different places. 15-second out of the Super Bowl, when that traffic came back in, 30 minutes post that ad running in the Super Bowl, how much traffic did they get? They'd have to analyze that and determine whether or not that was a success for the ad spot, right? Which I'm sure they had everything set up to do that. They probably had an offer on the website. They probably had, audience capture information on the website to get people's, names, email addresses, phone numbers for text programs, whatever. Then they had a ton of remarketing tracking set up ready to go so they could immediately hit those people who came to the website from the commercial with remarketing of other pieces of content for that commercial. A drip campaign on YouTube where anyone who came to the website during the whole day of the Super Bowl or whatever parameters they put on that, then got hit with a mini series of videos on YouTube that went along the storyline of the Dr. Squatch thing. So I guarantee they did those things. They may have other things set up, but that's how you really maximize that. And if you shoot that content in that capacity, like Chris, you always preach those to people, like, we're going to shoot, it's 1 day, but we're going to get enough content for you to stretch possibly for a whole year, but definitely like a quarter or 6 months even.
Yeah. If I was a business owner trying to move product, you need to become comfortable with spending the right type of money, investing in good content that is put together by, good creative minds, knowing that content's going to last you for a long time, be incredibly engaging, and it's going to be a lot of different hooks in the water for you, rather than I can get something done for super cheap from my cousin's brother who went to video school for a year. From a business decision standpoint, that low cost option is something you might think about because, I could do this for this cheap. Or the old thing we always hear is, well, why can't I just go do this with my iPhone? We hear that all the time. And it's like, go ahead, but poorly done content that is traditionally very low budget, the legs on that are super flimsy and they're going to fall immediately. And then you're just back to square one saying, I need new content. So it's really investing in a good vehicle over a cheap one is really what it is.
So
and you can get content done for a fairly reasonable price. It's not going to be a Dr. Squatch Super Bowl commercial ad quality. Those ads probably, I would imagine they spent $50,000 to $100,000 on the whole shoot for that thing at least. But it doesn't have to be that, but it can still look I mean, we've done them for many clients where the budget is less than 10,000, and that has its purpose because that client's budget was X. They just are in a place in business where they can't shoot a Dr. Squatch Super Bowl commercial, but they can shoot this type of commercial that still, has the appearance of that quality, and it's going to live out there on YouTube ads, on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever we're putting it out for them, on their website. And it can have the same effect, obviously, in a smaller capacity because of the spend required to up the views on the other one. But like you can get it done for a budget that makes sense for wherever you are in business.
So Chris, talk to us from a creative standpoint, and I think this is good for the people that are listening that are in a different situation from a budget standpoint, obviously, but the psychological side of shooting that type of commercial. Obviously, the Super Bowl, it's hugely driven on the men's consumer side, but the way they made the commercial, the creative behind that, maybe the humor that's involved, right, made it about a product that you wanted to talk about. How does that fall in from a creative direction standpoint on women consumers or men consumers whenever you're creating some form of content that you need to get out? And what do you think the psychological side behind them going that direction and really pulling the big plug at the Super Bowl? Is it primarily because it's a male audience? Is it because it's the way that they ran everything? What's your overall thought on all that stuff?
I think the male audience side plays a big piece into it because they know that's the largest pool of eyes that will all be on one spot. But also they know their demographic's male because that's what the product's for, but also it's not always to get men to focus on wanting to buy soap is a barrier for them, for Old Spice, for Irish Spring, any of them. But their wives or their moms, whoever, might also be the ones purchasing. But if they see somebody get excited about a Super Bowl ad for something that's speaking directly to their husband or their boyfriend or their son, and they see them excited about that brand, they might think it's funny, and then it becomes a purchasing opportunity for the other demographic too. So, but to your point, I mean, all those decisions are not accidental. They're not something thought about afterwards. It's all, months and months ahead of time, going through planning of what's our campaign this year, how the language, the wording has to be on point, the puns and the references have to be fitting into the right zone of talking to that audience. So, like I sometimes tell you guys horror stories of hour-long meetings I've been on to talk about what color plates should be in the background of a kitchen scene in a spot. Because that's real, because literally every detail is meticulously analyzed to make sure subconsciously something's working for that demographic. Now, those days are getting looser where things are much more, they want spots to feel user-generated sometimes as well, so that attention to detail isn't as prevalent. But the ultimate goal is that target demographic you want should feel a whole lot of different things within their brain in 30 seconds so that they know that they're being spoken to and that they want to take action. And I'm trying to think of any spots last night that did that for me. I mean, I think my favorite thing I saw besides the Budweiser spot was also Bud Light. They had a lot of those, I can't even remember the product.
The lemonade one?
Seltzer-y thing. But one thing they did that was a good crossover of content through different mediums was, dude with a sign.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yep.
So they sent him and his family or whatever, all paid for, tickets right in the stands, looking like he normally does with his sign. And they got a little quick 10-second in-game spot too, where the announcers zoom in on him and say something. But that's a perfect bridge of social content, something that's you see every day in memes and whatnot, bringing that into the real world, into a whole different medium. That's going to continue and continue and continue, especially when you look at TikToks and things like that. The worlds are all going to collide pretty soon.
Was that So was that paid for, that actual where they announcers went on, or do you think
I
that
think
was,
so.
Yeah.
I mean, from a PR standpoint, they would be trying to make sure that it's a fully connected scenario.
Yep.
Or it's possible that Bud Light just hoped planting him in there with the sign that the cameraman will catch him and the producer in the truck will say, go to guy with sign.
So that was
Or somebody knew somebody.
Say that again, Derek.
Or somebody knew somebody. I mean,
Yeah, they're so as soon as they showed him, I went and looked at his Instagram, and I think he's got like 7.5 or 8.5 million followers, right? So I don't know. Let me just pull this up real quick. I don't know how many people actually watched the Super Bowl last night. Let's see, Super Bowl. But from what you're saying with the cross platforms and the way that people are being advertised, or the whole social media power that's happening now, it's crazy that there's those types of changes being influenced, and marketing and advertising is really, it's such a hybrid way to go, because business is changing every single day. And even the TikTok craze that's happening now. I mean, there's TikTok houses in all over Silicon Valley, LA, and different places, and it's such a fun time to be in the marketing world, because the way people market is just changing at a very, very high rate of speed, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, even the Wayne's World Uber Eats spot, which they're catching some flack for stuff unrelated to commercial, but
I didn't know that.
It's rubbing people the wrong way, spending that much money on a spot when they're getting so much fire for how much they're charging small restaurants and stuff.
Oh, I didn't.
But their whole campaign was trying to, lean into that and say we're trying to push people to buy local now.
Okay.
But I mean, that whole spot, the underlying thread through that is, times have changed drastically. Have fun with it, but from cable access to TikTok, is pretty much the spectrum there. But yeah, I mean, they lean into it by saying, we would never subliminally influence. We would never catch on to the latest trends. We would never get a celebrity endorser.
Cardi B appears.
Yeah, so I mean, that's only going to continue more and more and more as far as the bridge between what's happening on your phone and what's happening on any other screen is just going to continue to become one.
So they just have I just looked up the Super Bowl attendance for viewership, 148.5 million viewers.
Yeah, sounds right.
Pretty incredible from a exposure standpoint. So you start seeing,
you see why they charge so much for the spots.
Correct. Yeah,
The eyeballs.
They did. So one thing I didn't know, I found out earlier in the day, so I was able to watch it. But Gary V, VaynerMedia, they were responsible for the Miracle Grow commercial, and that was their only spot that they did. But it was an interesting. I loved it because I love Gary V as an individual and a person, but I wasn't really. I don't remember the details of the commercial other than watching it, and then all of us. That. Yeah. Do you?
They did. Yes, they had a bunch of was that the celebrities one?
Yeah, they had a couple celebrities in it.
John Travolta was doing a TikTok in it.
I thought that was Scott's.
It was Scott.
One of the. I mean, I don't think it was one of the companies that it was a grass treatment company.
Yeah, that must have been it. Yeah.
That's Scott's. I think that's the commercial. I didn't know that was VaynerMedia. It seems like their style. I mean, it was pretty funny. It was well done. There's a lot of good interaction. There's a ton of celebrities in there, and it was like, the one guy's a NASCAR driver and he's doing his own lawn care, but his lawnmower only turns left, so he's like cutting off all the plants. And then, there was just a good interaction between the people. But Vayner did last year, they did the Planters peanut commercial.
Okay.
Remember that one? It was like completely absurd. Like the peanut died or something, and like it was like born back to life, and it was like a baby dolphin. It was like completely insane because it's like, how do you advertise peanuts, right? It's like, so same thing with the soap. It's like, what do you do? You have to do something that's a little bit crazy to get people to pay attention to a product that otherwise is mundane and boring. Like, yeah, Planters peanuts. It's been around. How long has that been around? 100 years? Like, what do you do? So they needed to reinvigorate that brand. And I think that's why they came to Gary and Vayner and said, what do you want to do? And they're like, let's do something completely insane. And so that's what it was. And then if that is a commercial, I'm not sure if that is, but the Scott's one, if that was what Vayner did, then they had, a ton of celebrities in there, and it was that was a pretty good interaction between them. That was a well done one. I like that one.
I'm trying to pull it up right now, and I can't. I'm struggling to find it, but I believe that was the one that they did. It was a 30-second one, I believe.
At the end of the day, you don't always get it right, but with digital, the good thing is you can test a lot of stuff for a very low risk, low cost, and see what does work before you go run a Super Bowl ad for $5.5 million, right? But at the end of the day, it's you got to know your audience, and then you got to build the content around the psychology of that audience. And that, since we're talking about Super Bowl commercials, if anyone who's watching saw the Dr. Squatch one, or you've looked it up since we mentioned it, there's no better example of playing to your audience, knowing exactly who they are and understanding what you need to do in order to get your product in front of them and get them interested in it, because it's soap for men. I mean, normal guys, how are you gonna sell them soap? If you were to do something that's, along the lines of either informational or serious, guys are going to be like, I don't care. I don't give a shit about soap. Like when I go down the soap aisle, I'm like, oh, I forgot I need soap, and I just grab something. But if you can take something that otherwise is boring or unimportant to them and make it entertaining and funny and memorable, and subliminally, drop in little nuggets of why the product is actually better, but in an entertaining, funny kind of way, to that male audience, that's going to pull weight with them. And if you do it, Super Bowl commercial obviously has hit a ton of people, but again, they're going to hit them again and again and again and again on the internet after they visited the site. If you do that, that's how you can really, monopolize on your audience. And they have a very specific one. But there might be brands that their product could work for 35-year-old women or 23-year-old guys, and you kind of separate the content to talk to each of those crowds. But you got to know who you're trying to get your product in front of, and then lay something out that really will speak to them.
So a lot of our audience and the people that are going to be listening right now, a lot of small business owners, and again, the theme of what we want to try to always accomplish is to be able to drop pearls of gold, or whatever you want to say, for a business owner, entrepreneur, or whoever it may be, as far as them trying to improve their day-to-day operations behind their small business or their business in general. So from a content standpoint, from a digital targeting space standpoint, all those things, Derek, talk about the significance, as far as what happens after the fact. We obviously can help out, and businesses, we recommend video content for sure. Obviously that's one of the most drastically growing portions of marketing, but doing something with some form of video content and getting it out consistently, the importance of that, and a couple points of strategy on doing that, Derek.
Well, look, video is the most consumed form of content. Chris, what's the stat? By 2024, 80+% of content consumed is going to be video.
Yep.
That's pretty close, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you don't have video, you're already behind. It's not too late to get in the game. It's never too late. You can all make something and get it out and get it accomplished and done fairly quickly, and we can help with that. But you got to have video. It's people want to consume video. The data is very clear on what people are consuming, and that's why content creators, right, on YouTube or whatever social platform you want to look at, whether you hate them, love them, find them annoying, funny, whatever the case is, that's why they're so important and influential, because that's what people are telling the data that they want to consume. They want to consume video on these type of platforms, mainly in short little snippets, right? There's bigger things like podcasts that go for longer periods of time that people, do want to consume as well. But that's why TikTok's so popular. It's the fastest growing platform for a reason. They're short little pieces of content that people love to consume. And if you use those in the right way to get your brand, service, product, whatever out there, that you're on the right track. So you definitely need to have video for sure, 100%. You got to have a plan for content in namely video. And then from there, you need to make sure you have a follow-up plan on that content. Like, you hit all these people with your content, where's it going? What are you going to do after you hit them with the content? What's the funnel that goes down after the first touch point up here? Because you can have one thing happen that we see a lot is someone has good content. It's called good content, at least, right? What happens after the content? Where do they go? If it's digital, you're clicking them to go somewhere. If the page that they click to go to is average at best, they're going to leave. So you just wasted that person on a probably, well done enough piece of content to get them to click, but you wasted them because the page that they're going to post click is not up to par with the quality of the content. So you got to have both. Post click, I think, is one of the things that is most left out in a plan a lot of the time on digital. They spend all this time on pre-click. Our video is great. The plan, our targeting is on, but then what happens post-click is like an afterthought because they just think that like I already did all the work and it should just work from there. It's not the case. So pre-click, top of funnel video, specifically content that's well done and speaks to your customer. But then as important in, I don't know, somewhat I would say more important is what happens post-click. Where do they go? What happens after they went there? What happens on the follow-up with them? Because you need to do that. There's very few instances where there's going to be, you hit the consumer, they went to the post-click page, they did what you wanted them to do, right in that funnel right away. It's rare. It's not going to happen. You need to follow up with them again and again and again and again. So you have to have a well-done, whatever you want to call it, marketing funnel, marketing wheel. There's a million names that people like to throw out there. It all means the same thing. It's follow-up marketing on them. So that would be, in a nutshell, that would be my advice on that. Have well done enough for your budget, specifically video content that speaks to your consumer, and then make sure you have a post-click follow-up plan. And that's what we build, for clients. We help them with the pre-click and the post-click.
And so that's the beauty of what we have with, the three of us here in business. And, where Chris and Derek, where you guys really work well together is Chris being responsible for all creative content, the direction of a brand, whatever goes on in his brain on how he feels that whatever business we're working on, he can correlate or guide that business to create some form of content that's going to be wanted to be consumed by a potential end consumer. And that's where you work with Derek on the side of, okay, here's the content that I'm going to get to you. Now, Derek, I need this content to get in front of this type of people or this type of personality or what. Flip side.
Yeah. Be the
Well, no, you're creating the content. He's finding out, and he's putting that content out towards
it. It's a collaboration before we even get to any type of physical tangible.
Right.
So it's we know who we're trying to go after, and then we know what do they want to see, what type of things resonate, and then that goes into what I come up with, knowing because there might be some ideas I think are funny or I think are poignant, but then when you look at who is this actually going to, they're not going to think like I think because I'm not the demographic.
And
so
that,
we're working.
Yeah. So and that's what's really cool. And a lot of businesses, I think, miss this ballpark or this point in business is, hey, yeah, you could have great social media, you could have great pictures, you could have great whatever. But if that's all you have and you're not directing or guiding a potential consumer to have a call to action of some sort, whether it's sign up for this newsletter or it's go and be a part of this or, follow up for my weekly this, you're losing every bit of it because what's that first click rate, Derek? I mean, there's a substantial drop off rate in the beginning for any consumer product or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly less than 5% conversion rate. If you can get above 5% conversion rate out of the gate, I mean, that's, you either have a really unique, different product that is in high demand or, it's some situation like that. But, most conversion rates are a couple percent.
Yep. So where those of you that are listening out and you need help on different things in the business side of what you're trying to create or do, and this is something that I personally struggled in the very beginning was, you look at marketing and you look at it being a cost, and whether that's $2,000, $3,000, $500, whatever the number is, it's a cost that's coming out of your pocket that most of the times, if not every single time, really doesn't have an immediate ROI, right? It's something that it may take a couple days, weeks, months, years, depending on the scope of project or what you're trying to do with that content. So oftentimes people, and I'm guilty of this when I started my business, was the marketing was the last piece of the puzzle that I really wanted to focus on because I was trying to survive. And if I had an extra $500 or an extra $1,000 a month, I put it in a different position that I thought may have been more valuable at that time. And I think you always need to do that. But I do look back at the times where, business is a wave and it's up and down. So in the times that were good, I often did not reinvest that money into marketing when I really probably should have, because then it potentially eases the pain of when the waves are really, really low or just crashing on you, and it's kind of the tail end of it. So that's something that I think all business owners really need to think about is marketing is something that you always need to be spending money on. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter what stage in business you are. Marketing has to be in front of mind. What's your thought on that, Chris?
Yeah, and I mean, so many business owners, we all do too. As business owners, we want instant win, instant success with whatever initiative we're talking about. But that's not the reality of most things. Things take time. And, if you think of working out and dieting even, you don't do it for 2 days and then you're magically a different person. It's a long game. But it's still important to do that every day so that it lathers up to change over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. But then also I think so many times business owners might just think marketing means this big elaborate thing to take on that they feel like they personally are going to have to be very deeply ingrained with. It's going to eat up a lot of their time that they probably don't already have. They don't know where to start. They probably think it's huge budget. Type of scenario based on what they've heard from 20 years ago or somebody advising them. But they don't know that it's a new game. It's a new school of marketing minds like ours that can deliver huge, big, rewarding campaigns through digital at the quality of stuff that you saw last night on the Super Bowl, but from a small agency that's just looking to do fun stuff for fun brands. So
that's why we started this, right?
Exactly. Yep. And that's one thing where we're going into a little bit of new waters compared to, the type of agencies I came from or the agencies we competed with, which was try to all fit in the same room and then who's the loudest to try and have a client hear them on the other side and to pick them. Versus just go into a completely new avenue, a different model, and offer those type of services to companies that, frankly, you can have more fun and more success with, rather than just being one small agency working on a giant company that has 30 other agencies doing 30 things. So we like to partner with companies that are looking to grow, that need the help and expertise of what we do. But we want to see them win. We want to see them grow and get to that next stage in business and the next stage after that. And it's not just can you guys do XYZ for us? It's we'll do XYZ, but we're going to give you, A through U too for free, as far as educating you on what the importance of all those are to help you as a business owner continue to grow, versus you pay a big company to do that. They're not showing you any of that.
And look, we obviously have a marketing agency, and I'm very confident in the team that we have, and obviously we'd love to help anybody that we can, but also we just want to be able to give advice. So these are things that you have to think of and have different options. But that's the fun part about what we did, and that's a big reason why we started this company and this business. Was on a daily basis I was having conversations with various business owners, all different size companies, and I was delivering suits to them on a regular basis, and I'd hear the same song and dance every single time. And I'm spending X amount of money a month on marketing. and I really don't know what I'm getting in return. And a lot of that is because, unfortunately, in the marketing space, and especially now with social media and all the other bullshit that comes with that, it's an easier opportunity for somebody to fake who they are or put a persona out there to a company, to a brand, that they are better at what they are, or they have unverified information. It's really easy to hide things, I think.
And not just that. It's look at everything we've done the last 30 years as a big advertising agency would say that. Look at this thing we did for BMW in 2001. That looks cool to have that BMW logo on your list of clients, but what you did for them means jack shit in 2021. Right. It means nothing.
It's a whole different game.
It means you were good at that stuff back in 2001, but that whole print campaign you did that went through out of home into a TV and radio, blah, 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 means nothing now. The 20-person team that probably worked on that and the huge overhead of that team working on that for that company, they wouldn't necessarily know what to do now with a budget a fraction that size with a company that is all digital. And how do you, as a marketer, push that brand to the next level now without any of those old tools anymore?
And Derek, I think you always talk about on your side of the strategy standpoint is, all these big budgeted companies or people that think marketing costs an arm and a leg to do things. There are ways to do it as a small business at a reasonable price point and reasonable investments back into your business that potentially could have relatively quick turnarounds in comparison to these long drawn out processes through these large agencies. And I think that's something you and I always talk about is taking the spend of whatever you have and making that work. And that's what's cool about working with you guys is we figure out a way to fit into everybody's budget. And it's
and we can. And it's not that we don't have or want to take on, quote unquote big businesses, because we have and we do, but we're also set up so that small to medium sized business, like if you're a small to medium business owner and you think, I just don't want to have this marketing conversation because I think it's going to cost me all this money, or, whatever the case is with your reasons why not, we're set up so that we can work within your budget. I mean, the question we ask on the discovery calls with clients all the time is, what's your budget? What do you have allocated to spend on this thing? If you tell us, I got $1,500 a month I can spend, we'll be like, okay, here's what we think we can do for you that has the most impact for that budget. If you have 10,000, then we can obviously increase services and do more ad buying and things like that, or whatever we come up with. But when we do those calls with clients, or potential clients, we learn about their business. We understand what their goals are, find out what kind of realistic budget that they have, and then we build a proposal around that budget that isn't line items. It's not like an invoice quote that says, we'll do this and here's how much it costs. There's a full proposal. I mean, some of them are 4 pages, some of them are 25. Depends on the extensiveness of the brand and the client, but it shows you, here's the market research we did. Here's the audience building that we did for you. Here's the forecasting that we did. Here's some video content. Here's a mock-up of your new website that we think we would build for you in a direction that we would take the brand. And we do all this before there's even money, there's nothing's been paid. We might not even get the account, but I think that's the main difference in how we approach this thing, is that you're not going to get that from a big agency. They're just going to say, yeah, we can do this and here's the price. Do you want it or not? And then they're going to be like, okay, if you don't, then we'll move on. And small to medium businesses, they don't really even have the opportunity to have that conversation because the budget will be so far out of range for them.
Yeah, and I think what's unique is whenever you ask the question to somebody, and I think people's instant reaction is, what's your budget, is, okay, this is like a used car salesman type thing, right? And blah, 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 blah. They're just trying to make as much money as you possibly can, right? That tends to be I'm saying not our clients are like that, but I think the everyday consumer looks at it that way. From our perspective, it's like, look, tell us how your budget is, because we need to make sure the services that we can offer, make sure that they fall in line with what we recommend doing in your business or your practice. The more money you have, it doesn't mean necessarily that, the budget is going specifically for something. It's, hey, there's other options or other services that we can add underneath the here that really become what Chris calls the matching luggage of something. There's making sure that automation is set up that you do, Derek, making sure that the photography, the videography all meshes well, the landing pages, things of that nature. So there's so much behind the scenes that potentially could fit into a business and a small business specifically, but allowing us an opportunity to help as much as we possibly can. And that's what every marketing firm should do. Is there should be a rule of thumb with whenever they're going, they really should want to help people. And it's not about just getting a client to make money. You'll never last long term with that.
Well, that's good business, right? You do what is in the best interest of the client. It's good long-term business, right? Maybe short-term is like get as much out of them as you can, but that's the problem with big agencies and other things, turn and burn kind of situation. But this is, we've told clients to spend less, right? How many clients have we had that we were like, no, don't spend that amount of money.
Yep.
And we could have and probably would have potentially made more money had we told them to spend more on whatever the case is. But we're like, no. You don't need to do that right out of the gate. We don't think that makes sense. And here's why. Let me show you some audiences. Let me show you some data. And let me say that let's try this first in this capacity before you come out of the gate with this, because we don't want to waste your money. So we've on the flip side of things told clients to not spend as much, because we want the client to be a relationship with us for the long term, not, hey, they got a pretty big budget, so let's squeeze it as hard as we can for 3 to 6 months. And that's, I don't know if that's like the exact intention of other, big agencies, but it ends up being the thing that happens because they got to operate the way that they got to operate with giant overhead. So whereas we're able to do things and help clients from the standpoint of like, don't spend that much money, right? Which is maybe a weird thing to hear a marketing agency say, but like that's how it's set up.
Yeah. One scenario I have always found myself in the industry is somebody saying, I need a video, how much? How much does it cost? Or I need a photo shoot, how much does it cost? It's not a menu. It's not going through a drive-through and saying I want a number one. There's a lot of things that go into that. And that's why I always go to the analogy of, or depending on who I'm talking to, I'll go to the analogy of a tattoo or a hair appointment. So, when you think of a good tattoo artist, sometimes people like us that have tattoos, we walk in and say, here's what I want. This. See this thing I made or this thing I clipped out of a whatever? I want that. And then a good tattoo artist might say, okay, cool. I'm glad you brought that to me. What's your budget? And then depending on what your budget answer is, then the computing mind of that tattoo artist is, okay, well, give me a few minutes and I'll be right back and I'll show you something that maybe I think you might like more. That whole process is not him or her trying to screw you out of what you walked in with. It's them saying, here's how I think you can take this idea you have and elevate it to a whole new level and make it look so much better, more impactful, more meaningful for that budget you just said. Because maybe that budget is well below what this thing was you just showed me. So that's the whole type of situation that goes into a lot of marketing too. And that's why, good tattoo artists have good reputations, because they put the customer's needs first versus their own, because they would love every customer to walk in and say, I want 7 dragons of 7 different colors, taking up my entire back, and here's $7,000 to do that. But that's not the norm. So that's one thing I try and really educate, people in the industry and customers we work with on the client end, to just say that, variables always dictate decisions. And that's why sometimes if you do go somewhere and they say, hey, agency, how much does a video cost? And if they throw out a number at you, typically they don't know what they're doing. That's what I've learned. Because the answer should always be, well, what's the idea? What's the concept? Do you have a concept? If not, we'll do a concept for you. Here's a concept that we think, or here's 3 concepts with 3 different prices, and it's a small, medium, big. And then you can see how, that cheap spot has 1 location and 1 spot, but it's really funny because it's all writing. Then the middle one might be a little bit higher with a mix of everything, and then the biggest one might be blown out because it has all kinds of moving parts to it. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the idea. So, I always say the concept dictates the direction of the budget and things like that. So that's one thing we bring a lot of value to our clients on, because when we know their budget, our mindset isn't, oh shit, how are we going to get this done for that? Our budget is, how do we make this $1 million thing that looks like it, feels like it, for that budget? So it's a mindset that is very valuable for our kind of clients and future clients that you're not going to get when you go to those bigger companies. They're just going to see how little they can do to get the most from you.
Yeah. And everything, is for us is long-term life relationships more than anything. And I think both you guys can attest the fact that some of our closest friends or people that we talk to on a regular basis are legitimately people that we've met through the marketing business or building the brands that we're associated with. And that's what's really fun about what we're doing, is every single day is we get to work with essentially friends of ours to help them achieve and realize a better situation for their brand or business, or even just personal success or growth, or the feeling that they get from being successful. Because there's no better feeling in the world whenever you're able to do something for yourself, be able to build something, grow something from an idea, or take something that's already existing and watch that get further down the road in growth. And that's what's fun about marketing. That's what's fun about branding and really being in business with you guys, is the skill sets that you guys bring to the table are second to none. And it's really awesome to see, now that we have tried and true reputation as well as years of success with some of our clients, to be able to show that everything that we do is really, it comes in, hey, we become a part of your company and a part of your brand. And it's, I know Derek, there are times where you're working till 2-3 in the morning on different projects with some of our clients on the West Coast. And Chris, I know you're never sleeping at all either. It's just going above and beyond the day-to-day stuff is where we are. And we may charge X amount a month depending on the project, depending on the customer, the consumer, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, we always give 1,000,000 times more value, because we just love what we do and we want to be a part of something, not just for 3 months, but for 3 years, 10 years, 30 years.
Yeah, and I'll say that, one, I think we're pretty fun to work with. Like, we're just regular people. Like, we're not going to bullshit you when you talk to us on a call or on a video call or wherever we have meetings or a planning call or whatever. It's not just like, okay, bullet point number 1, let's go over this. And it's like, there are the particulars that you do have to go over like that, but like, we always find a way to make it fun and at least because it should be, right. So we're like high energy people that have it's a planning call with a client. But you find a way to have, we ask them about we end up talking about life with them, their whatever's going on in culture in that moment in time, their kids, maybe their life, whatever it is. It's much more than okay, here's the call for these things and let's go over them and let's hang up. Like, that's not, it's not just not our personalities. And then 2, we're ridiculously available. Like, every client has my personal cell phone number. Text me or call me whenever you want. Like, it's we're same thing with Chris and Dave. Like, we're ridiculously available. You're not gonna. What's the best case scenario at a big agency, Chris? You have to put in a ticket to a system that might have a 2 to 3 day turnaround for a response, right?
Yeah, and 501. If you're a client, you're now not a priority. Within reason in those large agencies, because there are a lot of hours put in late nights and stuff too. But the mindset of having 70 employees of right out of college that are just staring at the clock, wait until 5 so they can bolt. If I'm a big corporation owner or a mid-size or small business owner, that rubs me the wrong way if I can't call at 5:05 and reach somebody. So that is something we don't promote it. It's just a natural evolution of our relationships with customers, that they know that they can do that. So it never feels like there's a barrier like there is in the big corporate world.
So yeah, no, I mean, and all the things we've done in this short amount of time, it's been incredible. A couple things that kind of peel from today's episode, just thinking through it is, a lot of the content moving forward, as Derek mentioned, the majority of this is going to be video related, but for any small business out there, marketing is everything. Obviously, first and foremost, you have to have a product, service, whatever it may be, that's quality. But having a good marketing plan behind what you're doing is something that should happen 365 days a year, every single year. And regardless of the size of the budget, it's something that you have to fit in if you're going to want to have an opportunity to continue to grow and continue to be successful. So if you guys have any questions regarding anything marketing related, any of the stuff we talked about today, video content, or even things that you want to hear on some upcoming episodes, always shoot us a direct message, email, whatever it may be. And we'd love to kind of incorporate some things. Again, everything for us is about how we can help and truly be a part of another person's business or brand. So appreciate you guys being on here. Derek, thanks for jumping on. This is going to be fun having you moving forward. Chris, as always, man, incredible job. Looking forward to what we got going on, and stay tuned for next week on the upcoming episode we'll have. So appreciate you guys, and keep going.